A German soccer fan stood in front of a television camera, struggling to hold back tears. His team had just been eliminated from the biggest tournament in the world. But that wasn't why he was crying. It wasn't the heartbreaking loss. It wasn't the pressure of the World Cup. It wasn't even soccer. Instead, the tears came because of something far more unexpected. Just days earlier, Sebastian Kraus had arrived in the United States carrying a fear that millions of people around the world would recognize. For years, he had seen headlines about shootings, crime, and danger. He wasn't sure what kind of country he was walking into. Then something happened that completely shattered those expectations. Strangers offered to help him. Locals welcomed him like an old friend. One simple act of kindness affected him so deeply that he later admitted he watched the video of it over and over again. Standing outside the stadium trying to explain what he had experienced, Sebastian could barely finish his sentence. "I fall in love with this country," he said through tears. That moment quickly spread across social media, not because it celebrated a soccer victory, but because it challenged something much bigger. As the 2026 FIFA World Cup brought millions of visitors to the United States, thousands of fans were seeing America with their own eyes for the very first time. Many arrived carrying years of assumptions shaped by news coverage, movies, television, and the internet. But once they actually stepped onto American streets, many discovered a country that felt very different from what they had expected. Not perfect, not without problems, but far more welcoming, surprising, and complicated than the image they had imagined. So how did one of the world's biggest sporting events become an unexpected window into America itself? And why are so many international visitors saying the same thing after returning home? To answer that, we have to go back to the expectations they brought with them before their planes ever landed.
To understand why Sebastian's reaction resonated with so many people, you first have to understand the America he expected to find. Long before he packed his suitcase, he had already built a picture of the country in his mind. It wasn't based on first-hand experience. It was built from years of news headlines, Hollywood movies, crime stories, social media clips, and endless online debates. When Sebastian later reflected on those expectations, he admitted something that many international travelers quietly shared. "To be honest, I was a bit scared. News about shootings and criminals and that the country's not safe." For him, America wasn't just another vacation destination. It felt like stepping into the unknown. And he wasn't alone. Every year, millions of people around the world consume American news, movies, television shows, and viral videos. But those snapshots rarely tell the whole story. Headlines naturally focus on events that are unusual, dramatic, or alarming, because that's what captures attention. The ordinary moments rarely make international news. Nobody writes a headline about a stranger holding the door open. Nobody goes viral because a family invited a visitor to a backyard barbecue. And no television broadcast interrupts programming to report that millions of Americans simply went about another normal day. By the time the World Cup arrived, thousands of international fans were finally getting the chance to compare years of assumptions with reality. For many, the first surprise wasn't a famous landmark. It wasn't Times Square. It wasn't the Golden Gate Bridge. It was something much simpler: the people. Fans began sharing videos of strangers offering directions, restaurant recommendations, and even rides across town. Conversations that lasted only a few minutes became memories people couldn't stop talking about. Then those stories started spreading online. One post led to another. One video inspired the next. Soon, what began as individual travel experiences was turning into a much larger conversation. Had people misunderstood America? Or had they simply discovered a side of the country that rarely becomes international news? The answer was beginning to unfold one interaction at a time. And one German soccer fan wasn't the only person documenting every surprising moment. If Sebastian Kraus captured the emotional side of this story, another German fan captured the fun. His name was Freddie. Like thousands of other supporters, he traveled to the United States for the World Cup expecting to watch soccer. Instead, he ended up introducing millions of people back home to a version of America they had never really seen. Almost every stop on his road trip became a viral moment. His followers watched him walk into a Waffle House for the very first time. They laughed as he explored the seemingly endless aisles of Walmart. They watched him wander through Buc-ee's, overwhelmed by its massive size, endless snacks, spotless restrooms, and rows of gas pumps that seemed to stretch forever. Then came the giant fountain drink machines. For many Americans, they were completely ordinary. For Freddie, they looked like something from the future. Every new stop brought another moment of genuine curiosity. The oversized pickup trucks, the drive-thrus, the free refills, the powerful air conditioning inside nearly every building, the portions that seemed almost impossible to finish. Even something as simple as seeing a bright yellow American school bus in person became a memorable experience for many international visitors because it looked exactly like something they had watched in movies for years. Some visitors joked that it felt like walking onto a Hollywood movie set. Except none of it was staged. It was simply everyday American life. Perhaps the funniest surprise of all involved a bottle of ranch dressing. International fans became so obsessed with Hidden Valley Ranch that many tried taking bottles home as souvenirs. According to reports, airport stores even began stocking ranch dressing after security because so many travelers wanted to bring it home. Transportation Security Administration officers also reminded passengers that large bottles counted as liquids and couldn't be packed in carry-on bags. To Americans, it was just another grocery item. To thousands of visitors, it became an unexpected symbol of their trip. But behind all the laughs and viral videos was something much more meaningful. These weren't influencers following a marketing campaign. They weren't being paid to promote tourism. They were simply documenting their experiences as they happened. And millions of people were watching those experiences unfold in real time. The internet had spent years showing people what America looked like. Now, ordinary travelers were showing people what America actually felt like. And for Sebastian Kraus, those feelings became impossible to put into words. Because the most unforgettable moment of his trip had nothing to do with restaurants or famous landmarks. It came from complete strangers. For all the viral videos, for all the jokes about giant drinks and endless grocery stores, nothing captured the story of the World Cup in America quite like what happened to Sebastian Kraus in Boston. At one point during his trip, Sebastian found himself stranded in the rain. He didn't know the city. He didn't know anyone nearby. Like most travelers would, he probably expected to call a taxi or wait for a rideshare. Instead, a group of complete strangers stopped and offered him a ride. No cameras, no publicity, no viral challenge. Just ordinary people helping someone who needed it. They drove him back to his hotel without expecting anything in return. To most Americans, it may have seemed like a small act of kindness. To Sebastian, it became the defining moment of his entire trip. He later admitted that he replayed the video from that ride over and over again because he couldn't believe what had happened. Then came the interview that millions would eventually watch. Standing outside the stadium after Germany's heartbreaking elimination, Sebastian struggled to keep his composure. He wiped away tears with his jersey. He looked away from the camera, trying to collect himself. Then he finally said the words that quickly spread around the world. "I fall in love with this country, and this was so emotional." Those weren't the words people expected to hear from a fan whose World Cup journey had just ended. By the end of the World Cup, thousands of fans went home with stories they never expected to tell. About generous strangers, unforgettable road trips, places they'd only seen in movies. But it also proved something else. No country can be understood through a single story. Because behind the warmth, visitors also caught glimpses of a harder reality millions of Americans live with. Rising healthcare costs, expensive housing, the pressure of everyday bills. That reality is just as much a part of America as the kindness Sebastian found in Boston. Both are true. Neither is the whole picture. Sebastian didn't leave believing America was perfect. He left believing it was different from what he'd expected. Sometimes, that's enough to change how someone sees the world.
Maybe that's the real victory of this World Cup. Not the goals, not the trophies, but the conversations between strangers that reminded people the fastest way to replace assumptions is with experience. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more that go beyond the headlines. Thanks for watching.